stuff all by itself. It does it itself. Okay?
Yeah, you're right there with me though.
Every time I open the hangar door to go flying, I realize that I'm one of the lucky guys doing something that I dreamt of as a kid.
within the Warbird community, I think everyone has that common thread that they want to preserve the aircraft and they want to preserve the history and honor the service that the veterans have given to our country. Sometimes folks in America take that kind of for granted. When you have the opportunity to see these aircraft, take a minute to think about all the sacrifices that were made. A lot of fellas didn't come home and gave the ultimate sacrifice just so we could have our freedoms today that we enjoy. And so that's a critical component of warbird flying. Hello, my name is Bill Fischer. I'm the Executive Director of EAA's Warbirds of America division here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Some of the responsibilities here are just, keeping the main office running and keeping our 8,000 members satisfied with their membership, and some of the day-to-day routine things. We're always here to answer questions from our members, and we do get a lot of technical type questions. How do I get into flying a warbird, or what's needed, or I've got a maintenance type question that who would I talk to about engines or avionics, that type of thing. So we've got a vast network of people within the warbird community that we can reach out to and help our members get their questions answered or their issues taken care of. We also have a responsibility for producing Warbirds magazine. And the magazine is our main connection with our members. and it comes out 8 times a year. So we're constantly reaching out, looking for new content, looking for interesting stories, great photography, which is a kind of cornerstone of the magazine. And I've got some oversight there that we're constantly reviewing what's coming up, planning ahead, working with our editor Jim Busha to make sure that when the Warbirds magazine reaches your doorstep, that it's product that you can be proud of as a member, and find it interesting and keep you connected to the organization. Along with that, we're delving into the electronic world here. We're putting out a weekly e-newsletter, e-blast, that I think over 10,000 people are signed up for now, and keeps them connected on a weekly basis and brings more of a video component to it. That we've done a lot of interesting interviews with people, whether it be a historical a pilot or historical figure over the years, or a member or a person on our board of directors, to help the members understand, who are the movers and shakers in the organization, and who's representing them at a higher level, that we all get to know each other a little bit better, and seem to be working out great. We've got a lot of positive feedback, and again, trying to make that community a little more tightly connected. And the electronic newsletter and website, we've done some major upgrades to help make that happen. In the last couple of years, we've gone through a major facelift and had company help us out with providing, all the necessary information that you need to, as a Warbird member, as a pilot, as a air show attendee, give people all the details that they need to make decisions, and help them get through the process of signing up for an air show, signing up to be a volunteer, be an air show participant. And so all of those things are readily available to people on our website, and keeping connected with a calendar of events, what's coming up, what's going to be new, what's going to be exciting coming up for 2021, 2022, and beyond. So everything's there at people's fingertips. They can stay connected and be part of the organization, and be part of the whole Warbird movement.
This is a rare opportunity in
We're a pretty tight organization here. We've got myself as executive director, and I've got a wonderful assistant named Kristen Scheich, and many of our members that have dealt with the organization over the years. When they dial in on the phone or send in an email, either Kristen or I are picking that up and responding right away. And it's always nice to have a friendly voice on the other end of the phone that can help you through whatever your question might be. And so we're always here to help with that. Working with EAA, we've got a number of support services that EAA provides for Warbirds, and whether it be a personnel function, a finance function, we're all part of the team here that puts together the best package that we can to make our members value membership value the best that it can. So, and much of that is geared towards our annual convention, EAA AirVenture Oshkosh, which takes place at the end of July every year. Within that whole scheme of things, there's over 4,000 volunteers that help support the event. They really make it go and grow. And in our Warbird section, we've got about 600 volunteers. And among those volunteers, there's over 32 chairpersons that are in charge of their specific area, whether it be flight line operations, we've got a group of living history people that actually set up a World War II style encampment for the whole week that replicates something that might be found in the European theater operations or the Italian campaign during World War II. So tents and vehicles and equipment and displays, which are very interesting, very fascinating to people. We also delve into a narrated tram tour throughout the convention grounds. They'll aboard a tram. They get a narrated tour of the Warbird section and get to learn a little bit about the history of all the airplanes that they see. You know, a lot of times you can go to an air show and maybe talk to a pilot if you're lucky, get a little bit of history, but a lot of times they're busy. So this narrated tour kind of bridges the gap and gives everyone an overview of what's the Warbird area all about. What is there to see? What is there to do? And the tram tours have been a fantastic addition. This year we actually have a couple more tram cars that we're going to put into service. That is really exciting to build our capacity and generate more interest in the area. We also have a flight simulator building that we have 4 Redbird flight simulators that replicate either a P-51 Mustang or a F-4U Corsair. And those 4 simulators can provide young people with an experience on what's it like to fly a World War II fighter. And it's very popular. People have to get there early, and they might have to stand in line a little bit, but it's well worth the wait. And they can learn about what it's like to fly World War II aircraft.
Our veteran guest aviator this afternoon is a retired Air Force colonel. He flew Mustangs with the 357th Fighter Group out of Leiston, England, nicknamed the Oxford Boys. He was a major at age 22, flying 2 tours, logging 116 missions over Europe. He was a triple ace with 16 1/4 air victories and is currently the ranking American living ace of World War II. After the war, he continued his career as a test pilot. His last assignment was commanding a tactical fighter wing in Vietnam. Please welcome Jack Roush, Jim Hagedorn, and Colonel Bud Anderson.
Okay.
It's a show and tell operation that we do twice a day, where an aircraft gets towed onto the ramp, and the pilot or a veteran will be there to talk about the program, to talk about the aircraft and its history, and really a fascinating opportunity for people to gather. They can either sit in the bleachers or sit on the ground, listen to the program, and at the end they get a chance to ask questions. A Q&A session with people like Colonel Bud Anderson, or veteran pilots or mechanics or people that have been associated with that aircraft make and model, and really dive in and get to learn what it was like to fly those in combat, what it's like to fly them in today's environment. Certainly a lot different going from air show to air show in a Mustang than it was back in 1944, 1945, preparing for combat missions. So 2 different types of operational environments, and both fascinating in their own right. Once we get into the training aspect of things, we rely heavily on the type clubs, groups like the North American Trainer Association, the Red Star Pilots Association, the T-34 Association, and any other groups that might get together and practice and train for formation flying. That's one aspect of an air show, is those big formations that you see. That takes a lot of work, and people have to get their credentials before being qualified to fly in air shows. So there's a lot of formation clinics that take place all around the country, every corner of the lower 48, and people get together in groups. They'll fly together, they'll train together, they'll go through safety practices and educational processes where they become a better formation pilot. And at the end of the day, they can feel confident when they get together with their groups that they can put on a safe performance for everyone. While the pandemic has slowed things down a bit, we're still able to socially distance and practice safe habits and get together and fly in those training clinics, training situations, and those continue and will continue throughout this early springtime coming up, early summer, so that by the end of July coming up, we'll be ready for Air Venture and being set to go and put on a great show for all of our air show friends out there. grew up in a town in northern Wisconsin called Rhinelander, a town about 7,000 people, but it had a very nice airport. Multiple runways, had a very nice terminal building, and a very aviation-friendly community. I was lucky enough to have a brother-in-law who was a CFI, and I could get my flight training at a reduced cost. And so as I got through college and entered into the work world, I started saving money for, I knew one day I wanted to earn my pilot certificate. And so I stepped money away and eventually got to get into it on a regular basis. And as an inspiration, getting into the Warbird aspect of it, there was a PBY that was based in our hometown in around 1968 to 1970 time frame, where it was performing mine survey work. There was copper and zinc deposits in northern Wisconsin, and various companies were coming in and looking at if it was feasible to go ahead and start copper mining or zinc mining in the area. And that PBY would be out flying constantly. It'd be flying grid patterns in northern part of the state. And it had some type of electronic device that it would reel out on a cable behind the airplane and looking for those deposits and making scientific recordings. So I'd see that airplane, it'd take off in the morning, and if we heard it droning over the top, we'd get together with some friends on bicycles. We'd ride out to the airport, which is a couple miles outside of town, and just sit by the fence and watch for it and wait for it to return, watch it land, talk to the pilots and the crew. And every once in a while, we were lucky enough to go out and look around close up at the aircraft, and really inspired us to focus on warbirds. And of course, about that time, there was a number of aviation TV shows that kids like to watch, like 12 O'Clock High. And so that all those things kind of sparked our interest. As any kid of that age, we'd be building model airplanes and getting books at the library and reading up on the history and all things aviation. And so that was really my spark and our spark is some of the neighborhood kids to get interested in aviation and warbirds in particular. Earned my private pilot certificate in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I had moved to, and joined the local flying club, Safeway Flying Club in Green Bay. And we flew a Cessna 172 and really built up time and had some great experiences there. One of my favorite cross-country trips would be, fly up to Rhinelander, get my dad and put in our trout fishing gear. We'd fly out west to the Black Hills of South Dakota and meet my uncle and go trout fishing for a long weekend. We did that several times, and it was always my favorite trip. We'd always have a great experience, and the flying was not the most exciting trip going across South Dakota, but once you got to the Black Hills, there was some beautiful country out there, and really enjoyed going out and doing that cross-country trip. That brings me to, nowadays working here at EAA, we're immersed in aviation. At any point of the workday, I can walk out and take a look in the museum and, walk amongst like the experimental XP-51 or a Mosquito fighter bomber or a Corsair or, any of the various Warbird type aircraft that are located in the Eagle hangar. Within the Eagle hangar, I should point out, we've had the pandemic, we've taken that opportunity to upgrade a lot of the facilities around the Warbird section. We've had a recent donation of a UH-1 helicopter, Huey, that has actual combat experience in Vietnam. That's been renovated, restored for a static display. We've got a great looking display that our museum staff has put together, and now that's open. They've also added a new display about the wasps during World War II, and a lot of artifacts dealing with the women aviators that helped in all facets of aviation, including transferring airplanes from the factory to the bases. Helped out with target towing, all kinds of different things that the WASP women did during World War II. So another great display. So things are always evolving and changing here. So if you miss coming to the EAA AirVenture Museum in Oshkosh, you're always invited to come back because there's always something new, and especially in that Eagle hangar for our Warbird enthusiasts. Back in the 1990s, one of our founding fathers, Bill Harrison, along with Ralph Royce, who's an air show air boss, and they got together and decided that it would be a great idea to have Warbird operators get together in a non-air show environment for meetings that talk about safety, have an educational component and a social component where people can get together, share ideas, learn a little bit about some of the latest and greatest safety things or maintenance topics. So in the early 1990s, the National Warbird Operator Conference was established. We get about 250 or more attendees every year, and it has some great content. We've got historical figures, famous pilots that have talked during our lunch breaks. Really have covered the whole gamut of how to operate your Warbird safely and efficiently. Always something special that goes on during the Warbird conference that you really can't find in other events or other locations. So something that we're proud of, and we encourage people to consider for next year. Within the Warbird community, I think everyone has that common thread that they want to preserve the aircraft, and they want to preserve the history and honor the service that the veterans have given to our country. I've never met anyone as an owner or operator that has shied away from telling stories, or you get the little kid that comes up and has no idea what a Corsair is, but the pilot takes the time to explain everything and tell a little bit about the history and mention the famous pilots, Pappy Boyington and so on. Again, all with that common thread to preserve the aircraft and preserve the memories and the history of what our veterans have done for us. Sometimes folks in America take that kind of for granted, and when you have the opportunity to see these aircraft, take a minute to think about all the sacrifices that were made. A lot of fellas didn't come home and gave the ultimate sacrifice just so we could have our freedoms today that we enjoy. And so that's a critical component of Warbird flying. spoke of the helicopter ride, and that was certainly one of my highlights. Ridden in helicopters before, but never a Huey. And going on board that day, seated next to me was Medal of Honor recipient Patrick Brady, who during the Vietnam War had flown Hueys and can read his book and understand all the courageous things that he did. Being a humble man, he would tell you that he was just doing his job, and that circumstances were just what they were, and they all did what they had to do, and for the focus of helping out his fellow soldiers, and just an amazing level of courage. And I was very appreciative to have that experience, to meet him and ride along with him. The folks that operate the Huey, Army Aviation Heritage Foundation, have done a superb job of keeping the history alive with the Vietnam era aircraft. A lot of times we see World War II trainers and fighters, bombers. When it gets down to the Vietnam type aircraft, there's not many F-4 Phantoms flying. There's not many A-4 Skyhawks flying on the air show circuit. But there are a number of Hueys and Cobras that are out there, and that group is probably first and foremost groups in the country that are preserving the Vietnam war history, and again paying tribute to the men and women that have served during that conflict. So hats off to them. Throughout the years, there've been, like I say, a number of people that have participated here at EAA Air Venture Oshkosh, whether they be bomber pilots like Paul Tibbets, who flew the B-29. Oh boy, Gabby Grabowski, P-47 pilot, Pappy Boyington, flying the F-4U Corsair, Chuck Yeager, who recently passed, and Bud Anderson from the same squadron that both flew the P-51 Mustang in Europe, and went on to have storied careers in aviation. We've been blessed to have those men join us and tell their stories, and being able to record them on video for future generations. And last year we had a special tribute to Bud Anderson, where we gathered more than 20 P-51s and were able to showcase them. One really special thing that we did was taxied out all the P-51s on the taxiway in front of the huge air show crowd at Oshkosh, and turned into the wind and did an engine run up, and having 20 or more Mustangs doing engine run up on the taxiway was spectacular. he has so many stories that it never gets old. And Bud is such a humble man, a consummate professional, and hearing his stories are just nothing short of amazing. So we've done various tributes over the years, certain anniversaries. The anniversary of the Doolittle Tokyo raid, we had a number of B-25s that came in for that. We strategically placed those on Warbird Alley, where it almost replicated the deck of the USS Hornet. And at the air show time, we fired up all the B-25s, we taxied them out. An interesting story is, as they taxied out, there was an older gentleman in a golf cart who was right at the end of the entrance to the taxiway. Well, he stood up and gave everyone the salute as they went out. And as the pilots were noticing that, they turned, and a lot of them had a tear in their eye as they were saluting Colonel Dick Cole, who was one of the original Doolittle Raiders. He was standing by, and there was, when people saw that going on, there was not a dry eye in the house. It was a moment of pride and a moment of thanks to Colonel Cole and his service to our country. And one of those special, only at Oshkosh type moments that we see here often.
If you're a veteran who is just joining us, we are gathering up for our Veterans Parade, and we're asking you to line up behind your service flag. And we are going to give you the welcome and the thank you that you deserve for your service to our country.
On Friday during EAA Air Venture Oshkosh, that's our Salute to Veterans Day. And we have a number of activities that are focused just on the veterans and our way to say thank you. It all kind of builds up to a special parade that we do early in the afternoon, right before the daily air show, where we invite any veteran who's on the grounds here to come up to the Warbirds area. We have a special ceremony for them on the Warbirds in Review ramp. And from that point on, we break up by branch of service: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. March from Warbirds all the way down to Show Center, which is about a half-mile march, having the veterans be recognized by the air show crowd, which can be many, many thousands of people. And it's a great way for them to be recognized. It's one of those feel-good events that they'll give the veterans a welcome and say a few words. And again, just thank them for their service and their contributions. It's something that really is a special day. And a lot of people comment to us, you know, their favorite day of Air Venture is the Friday with the Salute to Veterans, and they don't want to miss a single one. Warbird's Living History Group has been around since the 1980s. As far as I know, when they first started, a couple of guys would bring some flight gear and put it out on tables for display, and then gradually had things set up on mannequins, and then eventually had a couple of military vehicles, and it just kind of grew into a focused display. Our chairman, Kevin Wisniewski, has done a fantastic job over the past couple decades in forming this group. Basically, what they do is they set up an encampment that replicates a base that may have been in the Italian theater during World War II, the 340th Bomb Group, which flew B-25s. And so they try and replicate everything from a briefing tent with pilot briefings to daily activities, equipment that's on display, maintenance type facilities, vehicles. Actually, they have a fueling truck that was used during World War II. And so always putting on displays and being able to help bridge that gap between man and machine, where they can tell a story of what the guys and gals did overseas. And you can go 20 steps away and see a P-51 Mustang. And there's opportunities for people to have photos taken with the reenactors, wearing all their authentic flight gear, and to learn all about what was that all about. What was a daily grind like for a pilot or a ground crew person. So again, they've done a great job in bridging that gap. I would venture to say that those 75 or 80 people that participate are some of the most squared away people in terms of living history that you'll find in the country. Their impressions are spot on. Their knowledge, many of the people are teachers that come out, work in the school districts and have vast experience in World War II history that can pass that on and share that with other people. Over the years, they've had some great opportunities in meeting different people, whether it be pilots or being able to help preserve some part of warbird aviation. But I think some of the most satisfying things have been being able to share that experience with other people, and especially the younger people. I've had schools call and ask if I could give a presentation on World War II aviation history or any type of topic along that line, and going in and seeing and listening to and being able to convey that history and the appreciation for what our veterans have done for us. Some of the people that we've been able to contact and work with basically didn't have any idea that their grandparents or parents had sacrificed so much. Just recently, I was in contact with a local store clerk, and she said, my name is Victoria, and I was named after a B-17 bomber. The bomber is called Victory Bound. And she said, I was the last of the kids being born after World War II, and Dad said, well, wouldn't it be neat to name her after my airplane? So Victoria told me the story, and all that she knew was her dad was shot down in Europe and evaded capture with some partisans helped him evade capture. So in digging and digging and digging, we were able to identify certain pictures that she had never seen, pictures with the partisans that showed the pilot and her father being helped to safety and being brought back to England so they could be reunited with their squadron. And had they not made that contact with the partisans, Victoria may not have been here today. In telling that story to her and showing the images that I found on the internet and background of the squadron, background of the air crew, she was just blown away and basically brought to tears. And it's just amazing when you can help someone connect the dots and learn about their own family history, and so she can pass that on to their future generations. So it's those types of things that have happened more than once, and I'm just proud to be able to be in a position where I've got the resources to help connect the dots and tell the story, and maybe fill in some little piece of someone's life that they never would have known of. So that means a lot to me, and that's part of the reason we're all in this Warbird business is to share that type of information and keep the history alive.